couple of years ago, the ministry, I wasn't there yet, but the ministry tried to figure out how many synagogues there are, and we got about 70,000 places that we have a database of 70,000 synagogues.
So it's likely to be a lot more than 70,000.
Yes.
I mean, could you give a guess? What would your guess be as to how many?
Closer to 100,000.
Right.
But
in the whole country.
In the whole country, yeah. But we assume that operating synagogues are no more than 10,000.
Either 100,000, 70,000, or 10,000. There's no. Can we not get any closer than that?
No, we think here that the synagogues that are working and the people praying them, you have 7,000.
Okay. It's dawning on me there's no attempt to keep information secret here, unlike in Italy. It's just all so complicated no one really knows. If I don't get some solid data soon, my head is going to explode.
I would just love to be able to leave your office today with one solid figure about, in some way related to the subjects we've been talking about, just any figure that there is.
There's only one figure. There's one God, and that's the only figure I can think of.
Yes, quite. The people in the know at the Vatican wouldn't speak, and the people who can speak in Israel aren't in the know at all.
That is quite extraordinary. So I have just been speaking to the Senior Divisional Executive of Budget Standards and Control at the National Authority of Religious Services in Israel. And he confirmed to me that there are either 100,000, 70,000, 10,000, or maybe even 7,000 synagogues in Israel. I am absolutely stumped. This is the end of the road. This is it. What do I do now?
With no official figures available, it's back to Plan B, guesswork. And I'll have to take my estimates for Judaism in England and Wales and work out the ratio of the income and assets to the number of followers, then apply that to other countries. I need to factor in the GDP per capita and an accurate number of each nation's practicing Jews. One man who can clarify if there's method in my madness is the world's leading authority on Jewish statistics.
Thank you so much for agreeing to see me. So you know where people live and what they do and...
Yes, hopefully.
They
change day by day, but I try to follow them.
Right.
So first, let's quantify my estimate for Jewish income and assets in England and Wales.
The total income would be 62.7 million with assets of just over 150 million.
Let's assume your assumptions are right.
Donations,
that's quite significant.
Right. It is.
I would say it's not impossible. I would not say that this is totally off.
I can't tell you how grateful I am to hear that, because there's blood in those numbers.
Next step is to apply the ratio of those figures to the practicing Jewish population in Israel. That gives me a national income of £1.01 billion.
Obviously, the majority of the Jewish population in Israel, so a slightly lower per capita income than in the UK.
There are 5.5 million Jews in Israel.
Right.
The practicing population estimated at 75% here too.
So I would really love to go with 1 billion as a figure. I mean, do you think it's totally outrageous?
1 billion in Israeli terms would be something like 7 to 8 billion shekel a year. I would be ready to start considering that.
Oh, right. Oh, good. I guess the next step then is to work out the global income. So if we can put these figures up...
The majority of the world's Jewish population is spread across just a handful of countries.
3 million there.
So looking at the 7 largest, we can estimate a very rough global income.
So here you have basically the big 7.
Right, so these figures are within
the underlying logic sounds fine.
Right. So the total that comes up with
is... Of the big 7.
Yes, of the big 7 is 21.6 billion pounds. Am I right or wrong?
You are brave and courageous. It points to a lot of money, whether it's exactly 21.6 more or less, but it's a substantial amount of resources, and this sounds logical.
Such a result for us, because that's been just really hard to get to that point. Yes, thank you. Yes.
Well, there we have it, assuming my assumptions are right, of course.
So we've had a kind of confirmation for an annual income for Judaism of £21.6 billion globally. It's been sort of confirmed.
Yes! I haven't managed to get the assets, but 21.6 billion is my estimated annual income for Judaism around the world. That's just a fraction more than the UK has tied up in Icelandic banks. It's also 4 times the global income of the Anglican Commune, but interestingly, Judaism has less than 1/5 of the followers. But how will the Jewish income compare with Islam? After my Kafkaesque goose chase around Jerusalem, I've returned to London's East End, where probing the finances of Islam has got to be easier.
The Islamic population of London is booming. There are over 600,000 Muslims now living in London, and 200,000 of them live right here in Tower Hamlets, where they now make up almost 1/3 of the local residents.
And I'm starting my investigation at the country's biggest mosque.
East London Mosque began in 1910 as a small gathering of Muslims in a front room. But millions were raised for a permanent building, including a huge waj from the King of Saudi Arabia. And now there are 1,600 mosques in Britain. But just how much cash does Islam have in the bank?
I've made an appointment to see the mosque treasurer. I want to find out the income and assets for this mosque before building up to the national picture.
So can you tell me then what the annual income for the mosque is?
This year, turnover is just about £2,300,000 for this mosque and London Muslim Centre put together.
Right.
So the income for the East London Mosque alone is £2.35 million. Rent from the shops attached to the mosque contribute £500,000, while donations total around £400,000.
So can you tell me then how much the actual building is worth, the assets that you've got here?
Yes, I mean, total assets that we have, East London Mosque and the London Muslim Centre is about £12 million.
Right.
But actual market, that's the book value, and the market value will be about £30 million.
Right, because of the land and where it is.
Because of the land and where it is located, yeah.
£2.35 million income, £13 million in assets? With 1,600 mosques in Britain, that'll add up to a tidy sum. However, a formal audit of all the mosques hasn't been conducted. Looks like I'll have to do it myself.
Good morning, yes, the Muslim Council of Britain. I'm trying to find out some information about the income of the Islamic faith in the United Kingdom.
Tracking down balance sheets for all 1,600 mosques would take months, so I've worked out a shortcut using the same methodology from my estimates of Judaism.
So all registered charities have to file their accounts with the UK Charities Commission, and their database has balance sheets for over 300 mosques. But to work out a national figure, I need attendance and assets data as well, and I've only been able to get that for 27 mosques. That's all I've got to work with.
That sample includes the East London Mosque and smaller ones too. I've calculated their combined income and assets and factored in the attendance figures.
So applying those ratios of wealth to the 1 million practicing Muslims in this country, I can have a guess that the total income of the mosques is about 322 million and their assets are worth around £1.4 billion.
So Islam in England and Wales may share the same income, £322 million, as the global box office take for superhero film Iron Man. And £1.4 billion in domestic assets is also the total bonuses paid to staff at US investment bank Lehman Brothers after it collapsed. But are my estimates on the money or on another planet? I've come to the Muslim Council of Britain's Eid Festival to ask their money man.
Excuse me, I'm looking for Dr. David Abdullah. All right.
Just a second, here's Dr. David Abdullah, but can you give us a few minutes?
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. To wait a few minutes.
It's all right. I'm only trying to establish the myriad financial structures of the world's great monotheistic religions. I can wait. As long as Dr. Abdullah assumes my assumptions are correct and quantifies my estimate.
So we do know some figures, and I've done some maths, and a total income for the whole of the Muslim community in the UK of 322 million, with assets of 1.4 billion. That's the kind of figure that I finally came up with. I mean, does that strike you as outrageous or close?
It may well be in that region,
right.
But the fact is, our community is so diverse in its economic capabilities.
Yeah.
For example, that